problems I have with a lot of four-wheelers. Coming up that hill, by the way, I'm in between Kingman and Seligman, Arizona. I'm coming up that hill. This white minivan that's right in front of us was coming up behind me in the middle lane. Looked like it wanted to possibly get around that gray car. It's one of those situations where if you're paying attention, you already know that my lane's going to end. You know that I'm going to come over into your lane. Don't try to pass someone else when you know if something's like that's going on. That's a big problem though. A lot of people on four-wheelers have problems with though. They don't pay attention to everything that's going on around them. Once in a while I will come across a four-wheeler that will actually recognize before in advance that my lane's going to end, and they will move over before I even indicate that I want to move over. But most of them, even if I do indicate I want over, they'll just keep pressing on with their foot on the throttle, not give any damn in the world about the fact that I need to come over, because they have no idea that I want over or that I need over. I see a lot of times even I've seen them where they move over. Well, they'll try to pass a truck on the right that just came out of the right lane because that lane's in it. That's a clear sign that they just aren't paying any attention. They can drive right over the damn arrows and say that they're on the lane that show that the lane's ending, and they'll still do it. Down to about 3/8. I don't know. I'm in between the corner and actually a little bit less than 3/8 of a tank of load of fuel left. My intent is to go as far east as I can before filling up, because the further east I get, the cheaper the fuel gets as well. So as far as like Pilot Flying J locations are concerned, my next two options are the Pilot in Belmont, which is about 15 miles west of Flagstaff, or the Flying J in Winslow, which is about 55, 60 miles or so east of Flagstaff. I don't have to fill up at Pilot or Flying J. I can fill up wherever I damn well please, but as long as they take whatever source of payment that I want to use. I usually use my EFS fuel card, but I can pay out of my own pocket too if I want to. But generally speaking, if I know where the cheapest Pilot Flying J locations are, I also know where I'm more likely to find cheaper alternative locations as well. I'm not certain that I can make it to Winslow on what I have. Winslow is cheaper for fuel than Belmont is at the moment. I'd like to be able to make it to Winslow, but I don't know if that's actually going to happen. I'm less than 100 miles away from Belmont. And see, I'm coming up on the 95 mile marker. The Belmont exit is exit, I believe, 183. So we're about just under 90 miles away from Belmont. Flying J and Winslow is at exit 255. So I'm still a good 160 miles away from there. I might actually be able to make Winslow, but I'm gonna have to, I have some hills, some mountains I gotta go through here in between here and Belmont, and I'll see how things work from there. Once I get to Belmont, and or actually more toward Flagstaff, tends to be, it's a little more flat going from there to Winslow. So if I can make it to Flagstaff and look like I can do a good 60, 70 miles on what's left, I'm just going to go ahead and fill up in Winslow instead. I don't know if I'll do it at the Flying J, or there's also a fairly new Maverick there, just a couple miles away from the Flying J, that tends to be cheaper, and I might fill up there instead. But take a look. I still have 325 left on my clock. So I won't have any problems reaching Winslow as far as my clock is concerned. Ideally, I'd like to go ahead and get my fuel while I'm also going to stop for a 30-minute break. But I will more likely have plenty of time on this load to work with, so it doesn't really matter. But a good way to just to keep running is to keep all your stay on the interstate as much as you can, and stop only once per shift, and that's your 30-minute break. And then combine your fuel stops with that, or with the end of your shift, or beginning of a shift, whatever. Because that means less minutes that I spend off of freeways, driving from off, like either slowing down to get off the freeway, or speeding up to get back up to freeway speed, or spending time off of the freeways trying to get from to or from wherever, from the interstate to wherever I need to fuel up. That eats up minutes, and the more minutes I spend doing maybe 30 miles an hour, the more it can cut into how much time how much distance you can actually get out of a full shift. Now, I normally like to run on recaps. I'm not a huge fan of doing 34-hour resets. However, last couple of weeks I have been, or last week or so, whatever, well, maybe 2 weeks, I have been running harder and running basically 10 plus hours shifts, trying to get as many miles as I can out of a shift. I can get over 700 on a full shift, but when I run on recaps, what I normally like to do is just run between 500 and 550 mile shifts. Yeah, and it keeps me somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 8 hours of drive time per shift. The reason why I like doing that too is because, for one, a lot of times 34 hours is just too long for me to be sitting around in certain spots. I mean, if there's something worthwhile to do in some areas, it's not a big deal to do a 34 to me, but there are places that I might end up where there's just nothing of real interest to do there, but no real reason to be there for that long. So I just as soon be moving. I just find that it works better for me that way too. Another reason why I like to run the recaps as well is if you run longer shifts, you run a higher risk of getting a little fatigued at the end of your shift and making mental mistakes. Might be more prone to accidents on the road because you're just not as alert as you might be if you're getting off the road when you're still more alert. Also, you're more likely to make more mistakes with your backings, and which also means you might be more likely to run into somebody because you're just maybe exhausted from being on the road all day. So for that reason, I tend to like to be off the road sooner and then just relax. And it's one of the nice things too with JCT is most of my loads I have plenty of time to work with where I can work at whatever pace I need, and most of the time not really have to run into 34 situations anyway. But I still get good miles. Most weeks I get 3,200 miles a week, I believe. There are some occasions where I will get more. I'll get paid. I'll get some weeks where I'll get paid for over just over 4,000. But in reality, the most I've actually run in a 7-day period is probably 3,800 and change. As far as how many actual miles I've run in any rolling 7-day period, I have to look at my spreadsheet. I keep a log of that. But something else to consider here too is when you run miles, depending on who you work for or who drive for, whatever, and how the pay works, they might pay you based on. They usually tend to pay on as far as what loads you actually deliver during the pay period. And basically, what loads you turn in your information, like your trip sheets or trip packs, whatever, and your bills of lading and all that stuff. What information, all that stuff that gets turned in before the end of each pay period. But some companies might also go ahead and just pay you based on what miles you actually run. So something to consider with each company you might possibly drive for, to know what their actual payment plan is. With JCT, I get paid for basically for every trip that I turn in before the end of my pay period, which is Thursday nights at midnight. So it doesn't matter if I've run other miles. I'm not going to get paid for them if, let's just say, maybe I have a 2,000 mile route and I run like 1,500 of those miles before Thursday night. Within the last 500 and the delivery, it might happen Friday or something. Then all those 2,000 miles won't pay until the following week, even though so in other words, the next paycheck I get, I'll get paid for 1,500 less miles than I actually did run, possibly, unless a load that I might have delivered at the beginning of the week that was mostly driven the previous week. And that's a different situation and kind of offset each other. But this is things you need to pay attention to, especially if you're going to be a lease operator like I am. You really got to plan ahead on your paychecks, and because there are going to be times where you're not going to get paid much, because you have fixed operating costs. Now you're going to have fixed operating costs. And with JCT, I get paid, as far as my truck payments are concerned, I pay $120 a week fixed. And then there's a variable rate I pay also. It's based on miles. So my particular truck is a 2016 Peterbilt 579. And basically all 2016 trucks, the payment is 22 cents per mile. So for every 1,000 miles I run, it's $220. So if I run 3,000 mile a week, then that's a $660 truck payment plus the $120, so $780 total. But if I only run 1,000 miles, then I'm only paying $340 for that week. So it's not as big a hit on my paychecks when I don't run so many miles. However, it does take a bigger chunk out of my paychecks when I do run more miles. So these are all things to consider. There are going to be weeks though where I might not get really paid much of anything at all. Maybe even possibly have a negative settlement. So it's one of the reasons why I say if you're one of those people who runs on a paycheck to paycheck kind of budget where you barely survive every week, I don't think that we're the company for you to be with. Because you're more than likely gonna have a really hard time surviving that. But if you do want to run a business and or at least get started on it and maybe get a newer model truck that you don't have to make a down payment on, and that you can eventually become an owner of, and then make your own decision from there. Any number of options you have from that. It's been a great company for me. I'm really happy to be with them. What else was I going to say on that part? Yeah, also, because of those variable paychecks, or settlements as we call them, I would say plan ahead. Expect that your next paycheck might not be much, if at all. So, my recommendation is if you're going to be a lease owner, it doesn't matter if it's with JCT or any other company, understand that you're going to have you might have paychecks that are much smaller or non-existent. So when you do get good checks, don't just burn through it. Make sure you can actually afford to survive those slower weeks where you're not getting as much, and make the money you do get paid on the better weeks last through the week, at least to the next week or even 2 weeks, just to make sure you'll still have something to work with in case you do have a bad week. And this does include bill payments too, so you really do got to be good about managing your finances a little bit better if you're going to be a lease operator. If you're not good with managing your finances and don't want to have any put any effort into actually running your truck like it's a real business, then I don't think leasing is going to really be a good option for you. Doesn't matter what company you do it with. JCT is a 100% lease-owned or owner-op independent contractor type company. We don't have any company drivers at all, so but there are a lot of benefits to being a company driver, but there are also some drawbacks as well. Like you have to drive the owner's the company's equipment. It'll never be your own, and they're usually always forced dispatch. But on the other hand, you don't have to worry about what it costs you to get fuel. But that's part of the problem too. Is if you're a company driver and you ever wonder why. If you ever wonder why you don't get paid enough, it could be because of what you were doing on your own. Because if you have too much of an I don't care attitude about where you're getting fuel from, how much it costs or whatever, because it's not coming out of your pocket. Well, it does come out of the company's pocket, and the more they have to spend on fuel, which is the most expensive part of running a trucking company, the less money they might have available for, it doesn't matter if it's their own profits or having a certain portion of their profits set aside to pay the drivers with. So they might, they might not always be able to afford to give you the kind of pay raises they should be able to give you, because, face it, too many of you guys just don't give a damn how much it costs them to run the truck. All you care about is as long as you're getting paid by your miles, and that's it. And you're running your miles, that's all that matters to you. But be a team player and help them out. Make it easier for them to make more money. It'll be easier for them to also come up with more money that they can afford to pay you extra with. It's one of the interesting things with running a lease program like this, where hey, it really does come out of my check. If I spend too much on fuel, well, it just cuts into how much I end up making that next week. Because let's just say I might buy fuel in Barstow where it's a little over $4 a gallon. We'll just say about $4.05. Versus waiting until I get to Lake Havasu City and fueling up there at the Pilot for $3.65 a gallon. That's a 40-cent difference. And 40-cent difference when I'm usually getting at least a good 100 gallons of fuel, if not more. That's a $40 difference in my pay right there, just by getting fuel in Barstow instead of in Lake Havasu. And it gets even cheaper for me. Different if let's just say I get to Winslow, where I believe it's $3.55 a gallon right now. Yeah, that's an extra $5 that I'm costing myself by doing that. So you get to really understand just how expensive it can be for. It doesn't matter who the owner of the truck is. When you're paying for the fuel yourself, you really do get to learn how important it is to manage fuel costs. So if you run as a company driver for any of the for any company, especially like a mega company, like CR England, I know they're no, which I used to drive for. I didn't have any problems with them, but a lot of people have problems driving for CR England because of the pay. Well, there's part of your problem right there. How much money you're costing them for needless fuel costs, or all the accidents drivers might tend to have that cost them in either damage claims or litigation or whatever. Just because they might make a lot of money in revenues doesn't mean they're actually making much in profits. You should really learn about the whole business end of that, and you'll get a better appreciation for what it takes to run a company. I'm not expecting to have to deliver this load until November 1st. However, I was doing my ETA checks earlier. It looks like I can be there on the 31st at 5:30 in the morning. So I'm going to be way early, more than likely, unless they can get me scheduled for a 31st delivery. I'll be stopping when I do my 30-minute break, I'll be sending that information onto my DM, so he can let our scheduler know when I'll be there and see if I can get an appointment scheduled before the end of the day. If it does end up delivering the 31st, I'll definitely be submitting a request to either drop it in one of our drop yards or maybe get a swap somewhere. We have a group on Facebook for our company that has a number of other drivers in there. I might even I'll go on there and see if anyone lives in the Kansas City area and is on I-40 and might have an interest in trying to get home or something. I run whatever they want to run me, but I also don't want to sit. I don't really care where my miles come from. So, and I don't have any problem at all with helping out another driver who might be trying to get home, because it's not always so easy for people to get home like I can. Tex driver's a fucking idiot. Reason why I say that, he was right on my ass, probably no more than 15 feet away from me, waiting for that Jeep to go by. And he's easily within about 10 feet of my ass when he started to move over. You have no idea what's going on in front of me. You ever see what happens to a truck that rear ends another truck? If not, I'll tell you what, the results aren't good, and it's always not good on the rear-ending truck's part. For one, you're going to be the guy who's at fault for the accident in the first place. Two, I've seen a lot of accidents where a truck rear ends another truck, and the whole front end of the tractor gets so caved in that the driver of the rear-ending truck actually dies. Nothing good can come out of doing that. Do not do that. Keep your ass off me. You don't need to be right on my butt like that. It's not going to do you any good, except, and in fact, it's just going to limit your visibility. You give yourself no chance at all to accelerate into the other lane either, because you have to already be over to the other lane before you can really start stepping on it. Do like I do. If you're going to pass someone like that, back off. Start to, and then start to accelerate just before the car you're waiting for goes by. And as soon as they get by, then accelerate into the space behind them, and you're already at a higher speed before you're even over there. You'll be at much less risk of putting yourself in a bad situation. Another reason why that's a bad idea, a lot of these trucks have this stupid adaptive cruise system on them, and this collision auto avoidance thing, whatever you want to call it, where the brakes can actually fire automatically without the driver's input. And don't think it needs to have a slower vehicle or some obstacle going across its front end for that system to go off. It's one of the reasons why I'm no longer with England, because I got tired of that, all those stupid safety quote-unquote features. The whole problem with that is that it would go off a lot just because there's a bridge in front of me, maybe an overpass I'm maybe getting ready to go under. It would react to the overpass. It doesn't even need the cruise control to do it either. I had one time I can't remember if it was on I-20 or I-30, one of the two, but I was transitioning onto I-820 North over in the Dallas area. And just coming down the transition road, didn't even have cruise engaged. I was just actually gradually slowing down. Next thing I know, my brakes fired. There was nobody in front of me at all. Nothing in front of me. The only thing around me were the overpasses that were a good 30 feet up above my head and several hundred feet ahead of me. I promise you, it's not going to do you any good whatsoever to tailgate another truck. Nothing good can possibly come from it. You can't see. You put yourself at risk of being an at-fault accident driver, which never looks good for a trucker. Because the status of your CDL can depend on what kind of accident record you have. You don't want to have any chargeables as it is, let alone an at-fault. Do that to a car, and guess what? You can get that car driver killed, and then you end up in jail for vehicular manslaughter because you were tailgating. Don't be an idiot, okay? If you can't keep your ass off of other people, you don't belong in a truck. Just stay out of the industry if you're going to be tailgating like that. This guy's going to speed up or not. I don't really want to try to pass him if he's going to accelerate, but can't tell what speed he really wants to go. I can see someone's shadow up above, up in front of him. I can see it as a skateboard driver. I don't know if he's just kind of waiting to get through the hills before he tries to go around them again, or so I might just hang out here. I'm full throttle right now, and I'm not really gaining anyway, so I'll just back it off a little bit. Give myself a little more space between me and him, and we'll see what he does when we crest the hill. Mile marker now. I just passed Seligman just about a little over 5 miles ago. And next town I'll be going through will be Ash Fork, which is about 15 miles from here. Kind of heavy myself. I'm a little over 78,000 pounds, so I'm not going to climb these hills very well. So, not too many of these people are gonna. These other trucks are likely gonna climb these hills any slower than me. So, as long as I have uphill grades in front of me, it does me no. There's probably no point in trying to pass anybody. Coming up a little further back in the left lane, but they'll probably catch me before I catch Mawa, so I'm just gonna wait, see what, and plus I want to wait until we crest the hill to see what Mawa does. Yeah, looks like I might be able to catch him. I see some kind of road vehicle up here ahead on the right shoulder, so I'm not going to try to move over yet. I'm just going to stay where I'm at until I get up here past these guys. That's part of using the Smith system, paying attention and looking way far ahead. Look as far in the distance as you can for anything possible. Another problem a lot of drivers have, both truckers and auto drivers alike. And another, looks like a sign truck just over this next hill. General rule of thumb I use as far as how close to follow someone. I don't care if you're in a car or a truck, or how fast or slow you're going. This should be a general rule you should follow. If you can't fit at least one full semi truck in between you and who's in front of you, you're probably too close. Even if you're only going like 10, 15 miles an hour, it's still a bad idea. The reason why is, especially like when you have heavy traffic situations, if you're too close, you don't give any space for people to merge over if they need to, which just adds to the problem, because now everyone gets slowed up trying to wait for the guy who does need to move over, or you just couldn't handle letting come over. Not to mention, I also do that because I like having escape routes. If you got someone next to you all the time, if say you were one of them or the other driver blows a steer tire, especially when we're dealing with trucks, a blown steer tire can be a really bad thing. It's easy to lose control of the vehicle if you handle it improperly. Most people, they instinctively do the wrong thing, which is as soon as they realize they have a blown tire, they'll hit the brakes and put even more weight on that bad tire, which causes them to lose control and run off the road and flip or whatever else. Not the right way to handle a blown steer tire. And whatever side that steer tire is on, if it blows, more likely the vehicle's going to drift or veer over into the direction that it's coming from. So if I blow a left steer tire, I'm going to probably veer into the left lane, or the lane to my left, unless I handle it correctly, which is put my foot on the gently on the throttle to try to get the weight off of the bad tire, and then try to slowly slow down, gradually slow down in a way where I can put the least amount of weight on the tire as I can until I can come to a stop. So those are a couple reasons why I always say leave space. I've got another one on the shoulder here. Four-wheeler coming. Yeah, I might go ahead and move over. I can't tell you. I don't think he's going to catch me fast enough, so I'll try to get a little bit extra space here. I won't let my truck go above 75, even down hills, on down hills, whatever, because you don't have a throttle to work with. If you have a situation like I just talked about, where if you need to use the throttle for, let's say, a steer tire problem or something, or maybe you're on a slick road or whatever, and you need that throttle. So generally, I won't stay above my governed speed by much at all, if I even do. Trying to pass me. Thank you. You can tell that your lane's ending. Don't even think about trying to pass. Just deal with it. Didn't have a good 9 miles of hanging out behind me though, but not going to get you anywhere to get in front of me. So get yourself stuck between two trucks, and pray to God that I actually pay attention. I guess it's not 9 miles now. It looks like they reopened a lot of the road. We'll let a couple of these four-wheelers go by first, and then I'll explore the possibility of passing this truck. And I got a hill coming up, so I have an opening right now, but I want to see how he handles this hill first. Because I know how I'm going to handle it, probably not very well. Like he might be content to stay at his current speed, but I don't know. I don't want to try to pass him and find out the hard way that I'm not going to make it and end up just jamming up the left lane. So like I said, I'm just going to stay here until I see how this hill goes. It's not much of a hill, but still, like, no sense in me hogging up the left lane and blocking everybody if I don't need to. Yeah, now see, I'm full throttle. I'm not getting even an inch on him, or maybe an inch or two. Got two more four-wheelers, and I got a blue minivan behind me. I'll crest the hill first. I think the minivan will catch me fast enough, so wait to see what the minivan does first. Alright, now he's moving over. And I should have an opening after this minivan gets by me. Yeah, this truck seems content to not go that fast, so at least from what I'm seeing so far. Kind of hoping these four-wheelers in front of me, the pickup and the minivan, would continue to gain speed on me, or at least pull away from me, I mean, but it's like, if anything, I'm gaining on them by a slight bit. Now, I'm sitting on a governed speed right now, so if I keep gaining on them, I'm probably just going to back off on my throttle by 1 or 2 miles an hour instead of trying to pass them. I know it's not going to do me any good to try to get around them, and it's just going to take a while. See, I've dropped my set speed now a couple miles an hour. Now this is actually closer to them than I really want to be. I'm just see if they start pulling away from me naturally before I have to let off the throttle and create the space on my own. Probably won't have to deal with these four-wheelers that long before they're out of my hair. I'm willing to bet you this pickup will probably get off the road here in Flagstaff, or Belmont or Flagstaff somewhere. So it's not like I'm going to be losing 2 miles an hour for that long. If you think that 2 mile an hour difference in speed is going to make any difference over, for a half or a 30-mile distance, whatever, you're mistaken. It's only going to save you 1 minute, and that minute, that you could otherwise save could just about get eaten up by sitting at a traffic light or something. If that 1 mile if that 1 minute of difference makes a real difference to you, then you're running too tight on your schedule, or taking too many risks with your trip planning as far as planning when to stop or whatever the case may be. It's just, ask yourself, is it really worth it? Is it worth it to keep it, let's just say 70 for me instead of slowing down to 68 and bogging down a left lane and then possibly getting other drivers pissed off at you? Or see, it's all it took. I backed off to 68, lost a little bit of speed coming over the hill. I actually let off the throttle, let the cruise control off for a little bit to create the space too. I can say here at 68, it doesn't bother me at all. I'll just relax here, have the room I need. No complaints here. It's not going to save me any time. Not like I need to save time anyway. Like I said, my load doesn't deliver until, or at least I don't think it's going to deliver until November 1st. And I expect to be there early the 31st, so not like I don't have time to kill, possibly. Nice sight there right in front of us. Got some snow on those mountains. Currently at the 177 mile marker. I'm coming up on it right here, and it's basically the mountains just on right around the Flagstaff area. I'm right around 20 miles west of Flagstaff at this point. Speaking of, I am 5 miles away from Belmont, spot where I was telling you earlier, where I was considering stopping at the Pilot for fuel, depending on how my fuel looks. However, I still have over a quarter of a tank. I'm right halfway between a quarter and a third, so I'm just going to keep rolling. Now, speaking of, like I was talking earlier with the fuel, right now the Flying J and Pilot and Barstow are at $4.09 a gallon. Pilot in Lake Havasu City is $3.65. It's also $3.65 at the Flying J in Kingman, and I know at the Pilot here in Belmont. But if I get to Winslow, it goes down to $3.55. And then if I can make it down to Jamestown, New Mexico, which is 39 miles into New Mexico, it drops down to $3.39. If I can get even further, my fuel drops to $3.27 in Albuquerque and in Moriarty, or $3.22 in Santa Rosa, before it goes back up a little bit. So, and then it gets even lower in Stratford, Texas. So I'll be taking a US 54 between Tucumcari and Wichita. So, considering that, I only really want to spend as much on the more expensive fuel as I need to get me to the less expensive places. So I might just get, maybe just 50 gallons worth of fuel in Winslow, just enough to make sure I can get at least to Albuquerque, if not even Santa Rosa. One of the cheaper places in New Mexico or something, and then reevaluate my fuel situation there and see if I want to max out my tanks or keep going until maybe just get just enough to get to a cheaper place along the way again, or what. But that's how I can manage my fuel costs, and because I don't want to be buying any more of the more expensive fuel than I really need to, because it can make a huge difference. Like I was saying, $4.09 a gallon versus $3.65 is 44 cents a gallon difference, and that's $44 difference in my pay for every 100 gallons of fuel I buy. That's a pretty important thing, difference in price there, and overall cost. That's also why I'm advocating for California residents to help us get rid of that fuel tax that is up for vote in a couple of weeks here. Next week, in a couple weeks, whatever it is. Great example of that. Even when I'm coming back toward California, most of the time I'll get as much of the cheaper fuel as I can, and then just before I enter California, so like I'm here on 40, I'll usually max out my tanks no matter what, either in Kingman or Lake Havasu City. I didn't go into California with what I have. Do what I need to do in California. I didn't come back out before I have to refuel again. This trip here was actually an example of that in the opposite way. I came into California on I-80 and I exited on I-40, but I didn't need to buy even a single gallon of fuel in California. I still had about a good half a tank of fuel in my tanks when I stopped in Barstow for my break. So what I did there is, on my way into California, that last load, I maxed out my tanks in, where was it? At the Flying J in Fernley, Nevada. And once I had full fuel there, I got into California, made my delivery in Sacramento, went down to Turlock to drop my trailer at a cold storage place there. It had rejected product on it. Then I went down to Fresno to grab another empty from a carrier, utility and carrier facility there. And then I deadheaded 30 miles from there to Lemoore to pick up my load. And from that, I drove loaded from Lemoore to Barstow, and then of course from Barstow to where I am now. And I'm still on the same fuel I bought in Fernley. So one of the nice things I will say also with California, as much as we all hate the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, it's actually a good thing if you don't want to be buying fuel in California. Run at a lower speed and or get yourself better fuel mileage, to where if you think there's a possibility you might not be able to make it out of Cali without having to buy fuel first, maybe slowing it down and running 55 instead of 60, 65, whatever you do. Because a lot of truckers do 60, 65, I noticed. If you run slower, though, you'll probably get better fuel economy out of it. You'll be able to get more endurance before you really have to stop. Right here is that exit in Belmont where the pilot is. I sometimes stop there, but not very often. It's usually not the cheapest place to get fuel, and the other place I tend to prefer more anyway if I am going to stop in the general area. In this case, I still have 2 hours on my clock, and I know I can get cheaper fuel in Winslow than I can here, so I don't really feel like I need to stop. It's only 70 miles from here. It only took me an hour, so hour left on my 8-hour clock. And I go and stop for my 30-minute break there in Winslow and get fuel while I'm stopped at the same time. And while I'm there, I'm also going to go and send my DM my ETA, so he'll know what information to give to the scheduler, so they can hopefully get me scheduled for delivery. Most of my loads are already scheduled before I even pick them up, as far as both pickup and delivery are concerned, but it's not unusual where I'll get a load where the delivery isn't scheduled yet, and I have to either give them my ETA or actually sometimes the scheduler will even send me a Qualcomm and ask me for my ETA, and then I'll give it to them. Or sometimes I think my DM will kind of figure it out on his own. Approximately when my ETA will be, and then give the scheduler that information. Let's see what it looks like. Might be a little fire or something in the trees over here heading to the right. We'll find out in a minute. I don't know if it's just clouds going through the area, which I don't think it is. Clouds, most of the clouds are all several thousand feet up, so I have a feeling it might be a burn. Smoke is white, so it's probably a vegetation fire that's being actively extinguished. Just as I expected, this pickup that I told you about earlier, it's getting off the freeway here, just west of Flagstaff. And I knew he was probably not going to be on the road that long, so yeah. Even though I backed off 2 miles an hour on my set speed, that's all the difference it made. And I can get right back to the speed I want to be running and not have to worry about him and not have to worry about blocking the left lane either. You know, at this point, there's nobody visibly behind me. Still, I don't want to spend any more time next to another driver than I really have to. You never know what can go wrong. Like I say, a blown steer tire or something else, or even maybe an animal running in front of the road, and one of you or the other might stupidly try to swerve to avoid hitting the animal and not paying any attention to the fact there's somebody right next to you. Yeah, that does happen. So another reason why I'm an advocate: don't camp out next to other drivers if you don't need to be next to them. Leave yourself an opening to, where you can have things like that happen and you can move over without having to worry about hitting or getting hit. Overkilling it just a little bit. And of course, stupid four-wheelers always got it. Oh, what's it gonna do? Alright, now he's decided to get on I-17. Alright. Speed limit's 45. This guy dropped to about 40 for a second. It's not a bad thing though, because there are, like I said, road workers there, obviously being considerate of their safety. And let's face it, road worker safety trumps our convenience. So it doesn't bother me to slow down a little more than I necessarily had to. Didn't last long anyway. Is going to end in a second here. See if he figures it out on time. And big country looks like he's going to slow me down, so I'll move over. burn off more than 2 miles an hour for you, I'll probably just go around you. I just don't want to. I don't speed though. Okay with staying up. I normally run only a couple miles an hour above the speed limit, if anything. And even then, only because I know there's calibration tolerances. Speedometers, the SAE standard is 4%, plus or minus 4%. So if I'm doing 70 miles an hour and I have a 4% tolerance, then it's 2.8 miles an hour difference in either direction from my actual speed. So if I think I'm doing 70, I could really be doing anything between 67.2 and 72.8 basically, and legitimately believe I'm doing 70 miles an hour. Yeah, most vehicles, your actual speed is going to be a little bit lower than what your indicated speed is. Right here, the speed limit is 65. It's getting ready to go back up to 75 in a bit here, but I don't run more than maybe 67 in a 65. I don't even do 70 like most people would. But I dropped my speed down to 65 to stay behind him, so I don't end up that red truck back there. I didn't want to spend too much time hanging out next to him trying to pass him, so I figured I'd just wait till I get to a more convenient spot, like when the speed limit goes back up, and then pass him. But his speed was a little too inconsistent. There were times he'd be doing 65 and then he'd slow me down just a little bit less, maybe 64, 63, whatever, then back up a little bit. So I just decided, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and just pass him anyway. This next exit coming up here is one that the Maverick's off of. It's probably going to be a fair amount cheaper than the Flying J. However, I need to do a 30-minute break, and this Maverick is not really set up for parking. It's only more of a gas and go kind of place. I can see the Maverick right here in front of me. I think it says 311 for fuel, so it's 319. So pretty cheap. That is some good savings there. It's just, I can always use fuel credit, shower credits and all that, but I think I'm good. I might just go ahead and stop here at Maverick and then maybe move down the road to, I don't know. I don't really want to stop more than once, to be honest with you. That is a bit of a difference, but I'm only planning on getting 50 gallons of fuel anyway. I only really need enough to get me to Albuquerque or Santa Rosa or somewhere where I can get cheaper fuel. And well, I guess then again, for that price, I could have just stopped there and maxed out my tanks and probably got myself all around to Stratford, but a little late for that now. But it's like, yeah, I can always get credits, rewards credits on my pilot card, whatever. And I'm trying to get the points built up where I can get another headset for my wife without paying a dime. I'm getting close to that point where I can just use points only to pay for it. So all through this area, I can usually get cheaper fuel at other places beside the major stops, but I'm just going to go ahead in this situation here, go ahead and get my fuel here at the Flying J, which is at this next exit here, 255. Then I'll just go ahead and park it right after that and do my 30-minute break. And hopefully continue on to, if I have to guess, hopefully I'll finish my shift in, I might make it to Albuquerque, I don't know. I might stop sooner than that. I'm not a fan of stopping at Grants. So I'll probably end up stopping at the Route 66, either the one off of exit 108 in New Mexico or the one off exit 140. One or the other, I don't know. I'll figure it out when I get to that point. Coming right up here is our Flying J. I'm going to go ahead and fuel up first, get what I need, and then I'll park it after that. Now when I get fuel here, Pilot and Flying J, I always like to use the My Pilot app. It works great. I can set up my transaction through the app and have it already ready to go, even before I get to the pump itself. Say if I'm waiting in line behind another truck, I can set up my transaction through the app and have it already ready to go. And as soon as I get to the pump, the app has when I'm done setting up my transaction, the app gives me a 6-digit code. So when I do get to the pump and I'm ready to actually start getting fuel, it's already, all I have to do is put the 6-digit code in and it'll automatically authorize the transaction as I asked for it. So, I mean, I can tell it on the app if I want tractor, def, or reefer, or whatever, or any combination, and I'm already set up to go as soon as I even start, as soon as I hit the pump itself. Alright, that's all I have for now. I guess I'm going to continue on when I go to park it. That was an easy park. I usually back into spots, and I probably should anyway, but I'm just going to leave it here. I have a feeling I might end up shutting down end of my day in Jamestown in New Mexico instead, because I noticed yesterday when I was doing my post trip, my battery, one of my batteries, my number 2 batteries, was pretty warm to the touch. I just checked it right now while I was getting fuel, and I can tell it's warm again. And not only that, but I can see well, it looks like it's probably battery acid on top of sitting on top. So I'm gonna. I had that same battery was just replaced a few months ago in Jamestown. So I'm gonna go ahead and get there, stop there on the next leg, and then get it looked at and figure out why it's even doing that if I can, and maybe get the battery replaced or service, whatever needs to be done, and then hopefully I'll have time to finish my shift. it's I'm going to start my 30-minute break now, and we'll continue on a little bit later. Off we go. It won't be too much more for this day, because I will probably end it in Jamestown so I can get that battery looked at. I gave my DM ETA. He's sent the info on to our planners to see if they can get me set up with earlier delivery time. I don't actually have an appointment set up already yet, but like I said earlier, it's tentatively scheduled for the 1st, but hopefully now that I've given him an ETA, I can make delivery on the 31st instead. If not, hopefully I'll find out. Hopefully I'll find out in the near future, like while I'm still driving this shift, when they'll actually have it scheduled for. Dog got squashed pretty good. Yeah, hopefully I'll have an appointment time set up before I get to Jamestown, and I'll have a better idea of what I'm doing from there. If there's much of a lag between when I get there, or when I can get there, and when the appointment time is, I will put in the request to swap or some kind of repower. See how that goes. It's one of those situations I was talking about earlier where if I'm going about the same speed as another truck, maybe only half a mile an hour faster, it's just easier to back off, and even just a single mile an hour on my set speed, and that's all it takes. This HFC truck right in front of me, I was right behind him not too many miles ago, but it was going to take me a while to get around him, if at all, if I had tried. So I just decided to change my set speed to 69, and that's it. Only a mile an hour difference I'm looking. Now he's plenty of distance in front of me. He'll probably pull away even more. And it won't really have any real impact on me either. So this is something I recommend you do if you're in a government truck and you have these little battles with other trucks that are going about the same speed as you. It's really no big deal to just back it off just a single mile an hour or even two, and you probably won't even feel any difference. Might be gaining on HFC again. Now the question is he only doing it because of the hill? Is he doing it because the DOT truck in front of him, or something else? The DOT truck already passed me, so I doubt it's for he's slowing down for that. He might be one of them yo-yos where he can't make up his mind what speed he wants to run. I'll see how it goes once we get over this hill. See if he starts pulling back away from me here. Alright guys, we're just coming up on Lupton, which is right at the Arizona-New Mexico border off I-40. This is one of the areas, things I actually like about driving. It's all the scenery I get to see. This eastern Arizona, western New Mexico area is actually very scenic to me. I always enjoy coming through here just for the majestic views or whatever. Or just the colorful terrain and all that. I mean, it's just, you don't see it everywhere, and you know, it's cool to look at. And I'm an avid hiker, and I like to get out and like climb hills and things that are, you know, just things like that. So, you know, it just looks like a lot of fun here. I wouldn't mind taking the family out here or something and go climbing some of these hills or something if I could. Over here in Lupton at the state line exit, basically exit 359, there's a rest area, there's a truck stop called Speedy's, and there's like there's some trade places there or whatever, and then there's it's also like a museum or whatever, and they have a lot of animal statues or whatever on display up on the mountainside. forget what all's over here. I don't always look up at the hills, and I don't, so I don't really memorize what all they have up there. But you walk around, and there's a lot you can see over here. You won't be able to see it here on the camera, but I'll go ahead and mention what I'm seeing when I get close enough. And right here to our left is the rest area, and the exit up here is just before we cross it into Mexico. Right over here on the hill, just above the building with all the yellow there, it's like the yellow horse. I got a lot of statues up there, like deer, bald eagle, elk, I think a bear, things like that. And I want to say there was some other stuff over here on display. Yeah, I think I see some other stuff over here right at the border. Now we're just passing by Speedy's right now. And right up here above the New Mexico side here is just a few teepees on display. I think that's what they are. Now the fuel here at Speedy's is usually pretty decent price. It's hit and miss with the quality though. I've heard some horror stories about things that have happened to people with their fuel there. I've gotten fuel there a few times, and I've never had any problems personally. But yeah, I have heard, just rumors are out there. I don't want to smear their reputation, because, like I said, I've never had any problems with them myself. I actually don't mind staying there, with the exception of the fact that, if I end up taking a break, I don't tend to have the greatest cellular service there. I do have a connection there, but it's usually not so great. Data tends to be slow, or limited, so that's one of the downfalls of staying there. Got another rest area coming up right here, about a half mile away, and in a few more miles up the road will be a way station. This way station here, it's not unusual for me to get dragged into it. Most of the time I get bypass signals for majority of way stations, but this one has a little bit more of a tendency to drag me in. Way station. I'll find out as soon as I go underneath this transponder thing here. I got a bypass, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. Now I can also get past this HFC driver, since it looks like he's not. Never mind. Thought I was gonna be free of him. Still set at 69 to stay away from him, but didn't get quite so lucky. That's alright. I'm at the 11-mile marker now, and I'm only going to Jamestown, which is at the 39, so it's only another 28 miles from there to where I'll be stopping to get the battery looked at. Speed limit will be dropping here pretty soon to 65 as we get into Gallup. Still gaining on this guy. gonna try and go around the guy in front of him or not? I don't know. I think I got about 4 more miles before the speed limit drops. I want to say that speed limit drops right around the 16-mile marker, so we're not ballpark. I'm not gonna wait, but the problem is I got 3 4-wheelers, 2 in the other lane and 1 right behind me. As soon as this blue car gets by me, I think I will pass. Now I have an opportunity to get around HFC. Use a slower truck as a blocker so I can make my pass a little more quickly. See, this guy won't take me nearly as long to get around as it would have taken me to get around HFC if he was out in the open. That was close, but I'm at the 15-mile marker now, and it's dropping to 65. The only problem I have now, I normally keep my get my speed down to about 65, 67, but considering I just got past HFC. I want to maintain some kind of gap between me and him. I could drop to 60, 67, whatever, but he'll probably catch up to me. Now it looks like he's slowing down a little bit. So I'm going to get myself down to 67 now, since I see enough gap between me and him now that I'm not so concerned. This exit right here is where they got a TA and a Love's. I don't really tend to like staying here, especially at the Love's. It's a really hokey setup here. There's always panhandlers around, so I usually try to bypass this area. If this is about as far as I can get, I'll usually stop at either the rest area there at mile marker 2 or in Lupton. If I can get a little further, there are places up here. There's a casino over here on the other end of Gallup that I might possibly stay at, or I'll just go up to Jamestown, which is where I'll be stopping this time. Beyond Jamestown, they have Grants. I don't really like to stay there. There's a Petro and a Love's there. Every time I go there at the Petro, though, there are always panhandlers. It never fails. I don't think I've ever been there once and not had someone ask me for money. So I won't stop there if I don't need to. So pretty much I'll either stop the casino over here, or up, just a little bit on the other side of Gallup, Jamestown, or I'll get all the way up to the casino, or I don't think it's a casino, it's the travel center off Highway 108. I mean, not highway, but exit 108. There's another JCT coming the opposite direction. Black Freightliner 3677. Now, we aren't the hugest company in the world, only about 850 trucks. I mean, definitely big enough for a lot of people to call us a mega, but nowhere near the size of some of the other companies like Swift or JB Hunt or Knight or Sierra England or CRST. A lot of those guys are quite a bit bigger than us. And our main freight lane is here on I-40, mostly in between California and the kind of central U.S., I would call it. Most of the loads I've done have involved California or Texas, and by California especially, by more than 2-to-1 ratio over any other state. Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, those are other common places that I might stop, although also Florida, that's not unusual at all for me to end up in Florida. Also Washington. Aside from those areas, it's a little more sporadic with this, as far as where I end up in other areas. We do go across it, pretty much all 48 states generally, but certain areas it's a lot more sparingly. Also, they have JCT has a rule and when it comes to winter time, we're not allowed to use I-70, at least not when it's wintry weather conditions. In between basically between I-15 and Utah and Denver, if we have to go that way, they usually expect us to go a different way. And another one that we're not supposed to do at any time of year is I-90. We can use I-90 in Washington, pretty much but anywhere else, I mean, or of course I-90 maybe over by the Great Lakes area or whatnot, but in the northern Great Plains area, like say Minnesota, the Dakotas, and Montana and all that, we're generally forbidden from even being up that way at any point in time, any time of the year, because there's just not enough reefer freight up there. Too difficult for them to find us a swap if, let's say, if there's something that goes wrong and they need to get us a repower. It gets really expensive if any problems happen up there. So, generally speaking, though, I'd say if I do have a load that goes from Washington to Minnesota, where I might normally take 90 and maybe 94. They would actually pay me the extra miles to go down 84, down to 84, I-84 in Oregon, and then into Idaho and Utah, and then hit 80 and take 80 across, and then go back up from maybe I-35 over by Des Moines, or just somewhere over in that general area, go back up from there. That's how much they don't want us on I-90. locomotives smoking so much more than the other ones. Maybe someone, I don't know, maybe it's got some kind of problem or whatever. Maybe someone with a railroad background could give me an idea of why that third locomotive on that train is smoking pretty bad, and all the other ones look pretty clean, like they're emission, like they're California legal or something. I wonder if that CRST has a legit reason to be there. There are so many people who pull off onto the right shoulder for no good reason. I kind of wonder about the pickup with the trailer on my side as well. But say as a general practice, don't stop on the right shoulder if you don't absolutely have to, especially if you're a truck driver. You know what happens if someone distracted drives and crashes into the back end of you and they get killed? Even if you don't have a legit reason to be parked there, you end up getting a chargeable accident that involves a fatality on your record. That puts points on your company's record, it puts points on yours. If you have a chargeable accident that involves a fatality, there's a pretty good chance you'll never drive a truck again after all said and done. That's not because not necessarily because you'll be so shell shocked about it, but highly unlikely a company will want to keep or hire you if they know that you had an at fault, or not even at fault, even if you had a chargeable where it could have been avoided because maybe you stopped on the shoulder when you could have just gone an extra mile down the road and got off the freeway or somewhere and found somewhere more, at least a little more safe than that. Now, some of the companies will say don't park on the on-ramps or off-ramps too. Yeah, generally it's a good idea to stay away from those two because you still get people who will go off the road there, but it's at least the ramps are safer than being on the right shoulder. Normally, you should only be on the right shoulder if you have a seriously legit reason to be there, right? You have a mechanical breakdown of some sort, or a medical situation. General rule of thumb: if you don't need a wrecker to pull you from there, or ambulance to take you away from there, or maybe a mechanic to show up to fix you on the spot so you can move again, or maybe you were a witness to something or assisting something, that maybe an incident. Best practice is just stay the hell off the right shoulder. It's too easy for people to drift off course and then crash into the back of you. It's not worth the trouble you can get yourself into by being there. People are coming up on our exit now. Got some construction going on here though. Right lane's closed. Not seeing much movement on the off-ramp yet, so see what kind of problems or what kind of fun we'll have trying to get onto the overpass. Oh, that's why they got a temporary light there. Well, that'll work. So we got some new messages. Delivery is set for 11/1 at 0700. Okay, so now that I know I'll be an entire day early, I will put in my request to drop or repower. Usual message about New Mexico being Nazis about speeding, and then national average fuel price $3.35.5 per gallon. Fuel surcharge is now 35 cents per mile. Bit of a wait just to get on and make this turn. Alright, looks like we're getting some movement now on our side. Butt turn to make. Watching Martin make his turn. I don't know if he's just making it a little too wide or what, but just in case, I'm gonna hang it really wide too. That should be fine. I'm not so concerned with the cones as I am the rail here. Yeah, it was fine. Hopefully next, when I leave here tonight, hopefully I won't have to worry about getting stuck behind some driver who wants to do 15 and a 25 all the way to the on-ramp. Yeah, that happened last time I was here. I'm going to go check in at Boss first. They can take a look at my battery, maybe get something done with it, and then once that's all resolved, I'll find a spot and shut it down for my tent. Following Mark. if he's just planning to park over here on their side or if he needs something done also. I'll figure out what he wants to do real quick before I move too far. He might just be trying to park. We'll stop right over here by this drop trailer. And send them my breakdown info and come on. There. Send them my breakdown info and then check in and hopefully get this thing fixed. Check out these batteries. We got 4 batteries total here. The second one here is a newer one that these guys just replaced. How's it going?
Oh yeah, this on.
Guys, this one's here is warm and leaking acid. Drive in. But I don't want to drive in if you guys need to go by.
Go ahead.
Alright. Thanks. Got a bit of it.